Hello, this is Hannah from Zoek, the intelligent job matching site and app. Today, I am delighted to be joined by one of the UK's most progressive entrepreneurs, Tristan Ramus, founder of 2020 Capital, a London and European-based private investment firm with significant focus in the staffing and services sector. Thank you for agreeing to take part in this interview, Tristan.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
Good morning. As an award-winning investor, you have established a highly successful career, uncovering opportunities in fast-growing service sectors such as recruitment, healthcare and marketing. What's more, you are chairman to Cordant Group and Healthcare Resourcing Group and hold various other executive and non-executive director board positions with the majority of your portfolio companies. So, given your achievements, I would like to ask a few questions about your career journey and what advice you can give job seekers to help with their career development. So Tristan, can you tell me how you started out in your chosen field and what made you choose it?
Well, I think it was by luck and good judgment. I did my ACIB in night school. I left school at 16, never went to university, didn't do A-levels. Struggled with the structure of the school environment and decided I was passionate about going out and creating an adventure. So I lived in Cyprus, Lebanon, and did my banking degree over there. Came back to the UK in the mid-90s, tried to get a job in a bank. We were a little recessive at the time. And a friend of mine said, have you ever thought about recruitment? And so I started my job with a company called Harrison Willis, which was a financial recruitment company based in London, and I suppose the rest we'll uncover through the interview. But that's how I fell into recruitment.
Brilliant. What would you say has been your biggest challenge?
I look at what I do and where I've come from as a most wonderful MBA on life. I have seen, experienced, and had to be around many, many different business decisions, choices, good, bad, and indifferent. And I think the challenge is the ability to keep learning. And even with the size of business we are now, which is over $1 billion in revenue and with over 65,000 employees, is never to stop and think, I'm at the top, I know it all, because that's when you'll fall. Every day is learning, and the challenge is to make sure you are open to those learnings. Open to the people around you, both above you and below you. Everyone can learn from everyone, not just through line management. And I think it's the challenge to remind yourself to be in that space, to be in that headspace.
What has been your proudest achievement throughout your career?
Probably where I am now. I think I look back and I look at the windy, windy path that led me to where I am today. And I look at the efforts and the drive that has got me here. I think society has often made it very difficult for people to, succeed in a career, and they've got to do a lot of leg miles before they get recognised. And I think I stand with the banner of being low qualification but high output, high achievement. And I'm a massive advocate for seeing talents in people that may not be purely academic.
If you could start all over again, would you do anything differently?
I think I would have probably tried to get myself into something that was more sustainable. I think I would try and influence a better way on the planet if I had the wisdom I had today. On the basis I didn't have the wisdom I had today, I don't think there's a lot you change. You just got to make yourself available. You've got to be, 2 eyes wide open, 2 ears wide open, and 1 mouth smartly engaged with everything you find, and stay relevant with people and look at opportunities as they come.
Have you experienced failures, and if so, what have you learned from them?
I've had loads of failures, loads of things that have compromised me over my life. I remember buying a retail company back in sort of 04, and it almost bankrupted me. And I learned so much about restructuring, I learned so much about people, I learned so much about estate and property and law, that unless your back's against the wall, I would never have gone into those areas and had to research and find a way to survive. So there are many different business scenarios. Particularly, I've made so many investments over the years. I'm lucky to say that the majority are good because of my learnings. I try not to to disappear into areas and markets and territories I don't understand, so stick to what I know. And that's the big learn for me.
What is the best investment that you have made to date?
I would say it is probably in my health and well-being. Your ability to, earn a load of money or run a big business or, conquer the world is only good if you can stay healthy. So I think I've been very lucky, probably from my late 30s, I've managed to work in a sustainable way and be able to do it and have a family and be able to travel and be able to do it from abroad. Because I could be that workaholic. I absolutely love what I do, but I also recognise that one thing in isolation doesn't fulfil you.
What inspires and motivates you to get up every morning?
The world to me is like this massive adventure. It's like a massive playground of opportunity, and there are no rules. Not rules like when you go to prison, you've got rules. When you drive on the motorway, you've got rules. Clearly there are boundaries, but you can do whatever you wish to do. You can start a new business tomorrow. You can buy a business. You can create something from nothing. I love the creation on the world. So I get up and I look at this as a massive, great play set to go, where do we go today? There are no limitations at all. The only limitations that I think that you put on yourself are the ones you actually put in yourself. The world isn't limiting you. It's yourself that limits you. That's what gets up and gets me excited about what can we create.
Okay, great. And what is your greatest fear and how do you manage fear? I
think fear is, again, linked to health. I think you don't know how long you're here for, and without being morbid, it is a thought. So I think in my younger years, the party years, everyone has all of that kind of excitement in them. And I think as I've got older, I've become more spiritual, more thoughtful around my well-being, not just my physical well-being, but my mental well-being, to try and look ahead and say, if I want to be here for another 40, 50 years, how do I need to consider living my life? So I suppose as a fear is, there is a massive adventure to be had and not enough time to have it in.
What is the one thing that you find to be true that most other people would disagree with?
So I'm a great believer that people need leadership, people need to be led, people need structure, they need environment. I think we are in an age where if I come out with people need leadership, they need to be led, I think a lot of people can sometimes find that a difficult comment until they understand it. But us as human beings do like to understand where we're going, we do like to follow, and so therefore there does need to be a lead. And I think that can often be seen to be controversial. What
charities do you support and why?
So over the years, supported many, many charities, things like Ride for London, which I've done personally, right the way through to the businesses, all have sponsored charities. So I ensure that every business every year takes a charity and sponsors, not just from a financial perspective, but from a time perspective. We give time for people to get together and do charitable work.
How do you avoid burnout?
My view on burnout is if you are target-led, and I'm very target-led, the problem with hitting a target, it's like having a sugar fix. You have the sugar, you take it in, you feel great, and the next day you're like, well, what's next? And the problem is you keep setting targets, and those targets keep being achieved, and you become exhausted. You can get burnt out from this kind of repetition of going down the similar route. The way to avoid burnout is to actually understand your values, because a target is great, and I'm a massive advocate of targets, but also understand your values. So if you're working towards your values and targets happen to be aligned to those values, you won't get to burnout. But if you're working purely to target and you're light on your own values, then you'll always get that quick sugar hit. You get the quick, oh great, I hit it, and then you come down again. So anyone to avoid burnout, make sure you're aligned to your values and it won't happen.
Optimism or pessimism? Which is better for business?
I would say I'm a pragmatic optimist. To me, I'm very data-led. So whenever I'm presented with a scenario or opportunity or problem, I get right into the data, understand what the data is telling me, and then I take a commercial view. So being too optimistic that the world will end up, everything will be all right on the night, is probably too liberal for me. and everything's going to be terrible, and we're all going to be dead tomorrow is too pessimistic for me. So I try and take a good dose of optimism with a pragmatic approach.
What is your opinion on the saying, work smarter, not harder?
Yeah, I'm a fan of that. Find time to think, particularly if you are senior management or you're into the executive board. Key thing is not to be a doer all the time, it's to be a thinker and make sure you know how to execute the doing. A lot of great ideas come through in life, and a lot of ideas are presented to me at the board, both internal operational ones and new investment opportunities. It's not the idea that makes success or failure, it's the execution of the idea that denotes success or failure.
What would you say makes a good fit in your industry?
So if you're coming into workforce management, recruitment, and all the variants that sit within it, you need a bit of tenacity. So one of the things I'm looking for when I'm hiring people is the CV is interesting. Obviously, I don't want people who've been job hopping because they just can't settle in themselves. You need to see people that are progressive. So I don't mind seeing people who've been 18 months and another 18 months and 3 years. They've done really good structured development in their career. Mm-hmm. But outside of that and the CV, I'm really looking for three core items, which is I'm looking for drive, I'm looking for self-discipline, and I'm looking for their ability to influence. If you carry those three items into a meeting with me, I will find you an opportunity.
What are the three things that you pay attention to when you're conducting an interview?
I do like looking at body language. I'm key for watching how people behave, eye contact, the way they enter the room, which seat they sit in around the boardroom table, how they put their bag, where they open it, where they don't open it, where they make a pad out, where they don't take a pad out. I look for the things that everyone else would think they wouldn't notice, and I'm quite peculiar. I'm looking at everything that people wouldn't look at, just to sort of help build a picture of the individual, looking at sock colour, shoes, how they're presented. And not that I'm judging on it all, it just helps design a picture of who they are before you get into the conversation.
What tips would you give somebody who is attending an interview?
Research the company, research the interviewer, look them up on LinkedIn, understand what they've done historically, where they're coming from, and anyone else that you're meeting in that interview. Make sure you Google them as well, see if there's any good press, bad press, and different press. Make sure that you see whether there are any traits of what they like, what they don't like. Check them out on Facebook, check them out on Instagram. So understand your audience, because it's important for both parties to get on an interview. As much as the interviewee might sell himself to the interviewer and the interviewer might pitch the business to the interviewee, actually, if you're not aligned at the goals, at your values, going back to my earlier point, it's a short-lived career. What
short and long-term changes do you envisage as a result of coronavirus, so both to your industry and the wider economy?
I think what has been noted, there's been some amazing work. And if you look at the productivity around the portfolio, because of Zoom and Teams and Google Hangouts, our productivity is through the roof. Because there's no commuting time and I'm stuck on a train and I've got a bad signal, I can't access my PC. So I think as a board or a group of boards, we've been much more productive, which means that going forward, we're going to conduct a lot more of our business online like this. We've been able to do really interesting virtual suites of interviews and virtual walk-arounds for where people will go to work. So we're a big provider of labour to Amazon. And we've been able to continue with their increased demand, all online. There is also a sad side to this. So there will be a significant level of redundancies. I think redundancies were made pre-furlough. I think people in furlough will be made redundant as businesses see they can operate without these people, or their trading won't allow them to bring these people back. And I think your redundancy level will be high.
How do you think that coronavirus will affect the job market, both in the short to medium term and long term?
I think you'll see different jobs emerging where I think businesses will become more regional, maybe less central. So I think central London may find itself changing quite a lot, because I think a lot of people don't need to go into central London. I think this has proved it. I also think that European work can be conducted online. I think relationships are important to be formed one-to-one, but once you've met once, I think the amount of travel that people have to do to maintain their business position, I think, can significantly reduce. So I think actually for people's overall well-being and the job market, this is going to be quite good in the long term.
Okay. What are your thoughts on how to keep people motivated long term while they're remote working?
If you're stuck indoors and you're not feeling great, you've got to do something about it, and you've got to raise your dopamine levels. The only way you can do that is you've got to get out of the house, you've got to go for a walk or a run or a cycle or a swim or do some HIIT. All I can say to keep yourself motivated, if we're going to be in lockdown for another month, is do yourself a favour. It's been the driest April on record. Get out, have a walk, and try and get some exercise in, because it will make you feel so much better.
How has coronavirus affected hiring and candidate demand in your industry?
We've actually got a very good pipeline of people who want to come into the care industry, maybe because they've been made redundant, maybe because the retail markets have been hit, non-food that is. We're having to do a lot of the interviews either via technology or via social distancing. But at the moment, I can tell you that in the home care businesses, in our PMP business, which does the large logistics part of work, our recruitment has actually increased during this time. Optimistic about candidate flow, optimistic about hiring, optimistic about the sector and the recruitment market, albeit slightly different. You might see more permanent hires coming on, less contracts as people think more robustly about their midterm requirements. But recruitment is very much here, alive, and has run many, many decades through many, many downturns. And the good news with the virus is it does have an end date. A depression or a recession, which we had back in 2009, did not have an end date. And on that basis, I feel very optimistic.
Great. That was really useful. Thank you very much.